Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Liz and I'm so excited to be sharing with you another IKEA hacks video for 2021. So let's get into it. Recently, I went to IKEA and came up with some new project ideas. I think I actually came up with 2 videos with all the stuff that I found at this last trip. So I'll have a second video coming out soon. But one thing that I was really on the lookout for were some new nightstands. Chris and I have some white nightstands that we've had, honestly, oh man, like probably at least 10 years ago. When we moved into our new house, I painted them, but they are in really rough shape. So I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I grabbed 2 of the Rast nightstands, I think that's what they're called, for $39.99 at IKEA. So with all IKEA furniture, you have to assemble it. But before I assembled the pieces, I decided that I really wanted that natural wood look, but on the edge pieces, I wanted them to be black. So I'm going to be painting them with 2 coats of ink by Waverly, and I'm just going to be doing the outside and then a little bit of the inner portion because I knew it was going to be on the inside and I wouldn't see all of it, but I was worried that I would be able to see some of it on the edges. So I went ahead and at least painted a little bit on the inside. So next I went through and assembled these nightstands together. I'm not as big of a fan of assembling things with drawers because it does take a little bit longer. I will tell you, since we do a lot of shopping at IKEA, my husband had the great idea to get this hex wrench drill bit set that they sell at IKEA, and this has been great for all of the IKEA screws use this drill bit set, and it was pretty inexpensive on Amazon. I'll link it for you below. But I'm going to assemble the entire nightstand and drawers included. Now, I will say with this nightstand, I really don't like it whenever drawers stick. And I would say maybe like one of the drawers on each of the nightstands was having a really difficult time sticking. The others would slide in and out just fine. So let me know if you guys have any tips to make them not stick as well. I don't know. If that's a huge deal breaker for you, I know that I had trouble with 2 of them with them sticking. So just wanted to let you guys know that. I also wanted to add in some new hardware. They come with some wooden knobs that, you know, are okay, but I ended up picking up these like antique gold knobs off of Amazon. And because they came in a set of 10, I did have to purchase 2 because I needed 12 of them and they were really the knobs that I wanted, but I can always use those. You guys know I'm always putting new knobs on different pieces of furniture, so I wasn't so much worried about that. So I'm going to add the knobs on before I put the drawers in. So I grabbed some legs off of Amazon and I tried to find a natural leg that would match like the natural wood, and it didn't look good. But I figured that's okay. If they didn't work, I would just paint them black. Well, the next problem I ran into was how to put the legs on the bottom, because the bottom of the piece was the drawer. So the solution that I came up with was to cut 2 boards that are 1 by 2 in length. The legs that I purchased came with the whole mounting kit with it. So all I had to do was take each of the boards, and then I measured in 3.5 inches because I want the legs to be in about that far. Then I'm going to use a drill bit that's the same size as my mounting bracket and just drill a hole into the board. And I'm going to do that on both sides with all of my boards. Next, I'll put the mounting bracket in, and then each of the mounting brackets had 3 screws that needed to fit in. So I drilled holes and then put the screws in place. So then to get the boards onto my nightstand, what I did was I held the board in place and then I drilled holes in the side. I did 2 holes and then I just put in some screws that I already had on hand on both sides. And the reason I was okay with that is because there was already screws on the side from putting it together, and I was painting it black, so I figured I could just paint these black as well. And I repeated those steps on the other side. Once I did that, I was able to twist the legs in. Now I'm going to repeat that same process for the back of my nightstand, just making sure that the board is all the way to the back. Now I repeated this with both of my nightstands, but I'm not gonna make you watch me doing both of them. So like I said, I wanted to paint the legs black, so I just tipped them upside down and I'm gonna paint all of the legs black. I ended up only having to do 1 coat. And then I also went back on the sides and painted that black as well. So this piece definitely needed a sealer, so I went through and added clear wax by Annie Sloan, but if I could do it again, I would probably just do a water-based clear coat. This is the one I have on hand. There's so many of these that I have used and liked, but I feel like this may have been a better option, and I may even go back and seal the black with this. The last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to screw these nightstands into the wall in case I have trouble with pulling out the drawers or anything. And since I put the legs on them, I don't want them to topple over. So we're going to screw them into the wall. And here's a look at how the nightstands turned out. As I typically walk around Ikea, I found this really cute towel in their towel section for just a couple of dollars, and it was just screaming pillow cover for me, so I had to pick it up. I removed all of the tags. Next, I wanted to get all the wrinkles out of the fabric. Now you could use your steamer, your iron, anything. I'm using my big press because I was down in my basement and this is what I had on hand. So I'm just using this. This is not a necessary thing to steam out any of the lines, but that's just what I used. Next, I took the towel and I folded the two front sides together. Then I went around and pinned the edges. So next I'm going to sew along each edge, leaving an opening in the middle. Now, whenever you turn your pillow right side out, you really want to make sure that you push the edges of your corners really well. So I usually use like a pin. I had a pair of scissors, so I use that. Just be careful that you don't push your scissors all the way through. You want your pillow to have nice corners to it. Next, I decided I was going to add a stencil. So I'm going to be using this stencil. I've used it on several projects, but it's a really cute stencil if you're going to put this in your master bedroom or something like that. And it's this You and Me stencil. I'm going to put a piece of cardboard inside the pillow so it doesn't bleed through on the other side whenever I'm stenciling. I'm also going to be using the color Elephant by Waverly because I felt like that color went a little bit better with my stencil. Now, I don't want this to be perfect at all. In fact, I don't even want it to be all the way filled in. So I'm going to go in pretty light with this stencil and only do one coat. Now leave your cardboard in while you let this dry and don't touch it until it's completely dry. Once it's dry, you can come back in and add in your pillow form. This is one I already had on hand. And then to close it up, you can hand sew it, but I'm just going to make it easy and hot glue the bottom. And here's a look at how I customized this really inexpensive towel. All right, so next up, we're going to be doing a wall hanging. You guys, I have really been into wall hangings lately, and this wall hanging was inspired by something that I saw off of Pottery Barn Teen, and there's similar wall hangings like this that are around. So I wanted to make one myself. So I grabbed a board that I had in my garage. I didn't even cut it, it was just the length that it was at, and it ended up being 50 inches. So I'm gonna start by staining my board, and I'm gonna be using a color called Golden Oak. I'm just going to brush it on and then wipe off any excess. So next I went to Michael's to find yarn. They were having a buy two get one sale. So I ended up buying 6, but I'm only using 5 for this project. So I picked up 5 different shades of really natural looking yarn. So creating the tassels did take quite a bit of time because I was going to make 30 tassels. So each of my 5 yarns, I was making 6 tassels for them. So that takes a while. I think in the end, I kind of went and was doing some other stuff. But I think it took me around an hour and a half, 2 hours to make these tassels. But you could, sit in front of the TV and do this. So I really refined how this tassel process was working. So I wanted some really long, skinny type of tassels. So I took a piece of cardboard. I'm trying to be better, you guys, at my measurements. So the cardboard that I used was 11.5 inches. I know I'm bad about giving you guys measurements, so I'm trying to get better at it. So then what I did was I took one of my yarn colors and I wrapped it around the board 18 times. Then I took the whole section of yarn off of the board. Then I came in with some macrame cord that I had purchased off of Amazon, and I'm just going to wrap the macrame cord and tie it in a knot in the back. And with the macrame pieces, I cut off some pretty long strands because I didn't know how long I would be hanging them. So the macrame cord strands were pretty long. So I tied it in the back and then I cut off the little end. Then with my longer end, what I did was I took a little bit of hot glue and put it in the middle of the top part of my tassel so that I could hide the cord in the tassel. That way, if they flipped around, you wouldn't be able to see it. So I hot glued it and then I kind of bunched up the yarn around it. So that way it looked like the tassel was just in the middle. Then I cut off the excess down at the bottom so that it made a tassel and it was fringy. So I repeated this steps for all of my yarn until I had 30 tassels. So I was excited to finally get to this next step. So I laid out my board so that the back of it was facing up. Then I started to lay out all of my tassels the exact way I wanted it to look. So I didn't, make any sort of pattern. I really didn't want it to be like a pattern. I just kind of wanted to make them look different. So I just kind of picked up colors here and there. So don't plan it out, don't go like 5 colors, then start at the next one. You want it to be a little bit more random than that. And then just kind of vary your height. Once you have it completely the way you want it to look, make sure you stand back and look at it. Then I came in and I hot glued each of them to the top of my board. Now I didn't measure them out. I didn't make sure that they were absolutely perfect because I don't know, I feel like I didn't want it to be super perfect. Next, I'm going to come in and cut all of the cord at the top, making sure that I don't have any hanging over the edge. The next thing you want to do is go through and trim all of your tassels. You want them to be like pretty even, and this is going to make a big difference in your tassels. So I went down to the edge and I just trimmed them off. Now you could probably do this before they're hanging, but I just went ahead and did this step at this point. Now to hang it on the wall, you could use some wall hangers. I'm going to be using some command strips and hanging it on the wall. Now since you do have the pieces on the back, you probably want to use more command strips than you think so it holds in place. Or you could always just use some like picture hangers on the back. And here's a look at how my wall hanging turned out. All right, you guys, let me know which of these 3 projects was your favorite. I had a lot of fun putting these together for you. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I post 2 DIYs each week, and I have so much exciting content coming for 2021. If you missed our last video, I'll link it here for you, and I'll talk to you guys in our next one. Bye.